Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Sunday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there and having a fantastic weekend out there so far. I got you a big update this morning. I certainly appreciate you guys tuning in this morning as we try to figure out what's going on with the tropics. We'll give you an update on Franklin, which is about to most likely rapidly intensify into maybe as high end as a Category 4 hurricane. We'll give you an update on that, but I'm going to tell you most of this video, and at least in the first half of the video, is going to be in discussing what's going on with this Tropical Depression 10, which is forecast to become a tropical storm sometime probably in the next 24 hours. Maybe by later today, maybe into the overnight hours. It might take till tomorrow morning. Regardless, we're most likely going to have IDALIA, Tropical Storm Idalia, sometime in the next 24 to 36 hours. Idalia is our next name storm in the 2023 list of names from the hurricane season. It is actually spelled with an I, even though it's Idalia, it's spelled with an I. It's spelled I-D-A-L-I-A, okay? The dreaded I name. So we need to figure this one out, guys, because I'll be honest, if you tuned in from last night's video, things have actually increased in confidence, so we're going to have a stronger storm. And the peak intensity is now up to 90 miles per hour. Remember, last night it was 75. Now we're up to 90 miles per hour. So what we're going to do here, give you the latest and greatest information from the National Hurricane Center, take an actual look at this tropical depression. We're going to compare all the model guidance. We're going to talk about what's steering this, and we're going to talk about the impacts that we do know as of right now. Okay, to utilize the timestamps if you don't really want to hear about certain things. I don't blame you one bit. I don't take any offense to that. That's why I put timestamps in these videos for you to skip ahead if you need to. But I do appreciate people who just tune in the entire video. It definitely means the world to me. So with that being said, if you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And I just want to say thanks. The video last night was the most highly viewed video in about 4 months. It's nearing 30,000 views. So thank y'all and welcome to any new viewers, subscribers. It's definitely a different channel with this. As you can tell, I just do it in my bedroom. It's a personal feel. It's a family type atmosphere. We look out for one another and we pray for one another. So if you like that kind of style, this is the channel for you. So if you guys got anything I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put that in the comments below so I can pray over it, and I promise you others will pray over it also. Let's get rolling this morning. Let's take a look at the satellite visibility. The sun is coming up, so if you see this weird thing go across your screen, that is the sun rising on the western Atlantic. You got Franklin out here. Franklin's going beast mode this morning. It's beginning to strengthen big time. The only area of land we need to watch out is Bermuda. Some model guys, especially the Euro, gets very close to Bermuda, and that front just does not kick it out fast enough. So we'll give you an update on Franklin and what we do know, but we're going to give you an update on Tropical Depression 10, which is still what it is right now first. So this is it right here. If you noticed, if you tuned in from last night's video, this has actually moved a little bit further south. The center of circulation is a decent amount south compared to what it was last night. There's very lack of steering currents in this area, meaning basically winds at the surface, winds aloft, meaning above this system. There's just weak steering currents, there's weak wind flow. So this is basically just kind of turning in one area, and it probably will continue to do this until maybe as far out as maybe tomorrow afternoon before it feels a tug from some kind of upper low feature, a shortwave trough feature that digs down to the Gulf of Mexico. The same feature that's going to spark a lot of shower and storm development in the deep south today will actually tug this northward, and then it'll fully get picked up by the trough and then roll into the southeast and cause big time impacts. But as of now, has that pretty gnarly circular motion, symmetrical look to it. It's very broad. It's getting interfered a little bit with land, but the center of circulation looks to still be over water. Now, one big thing that'll change from this morning's video and tonight's video, and we'll go over all this again, give you the latest and greatest information. I believe we do have Hurricane Hunter's recon mission going out into this system today. So we're actually going to know and try to figure out what's going on under the hood, meaning what is the actual conditions right now with this tropical depression, soon to be tropical storm. But we know that these systems, they turn like this in the northern hemisphere, right? Okay. If you don't know, now you know. They go like this, so that's your center of circulation. But if you look at these clouds way on the northern side of the storm, they're fanning out in the opposite direction. So this thing has a nice outflow right over it, okay? We call this an anticyclonic flow, and we talked about this last night. You would think winds above the storm moving in the opposite direction is the actual low-level circulation would interfere with the circulation. Well, it doesn't. This actually helps push air away from the center of circulation, so it pushes air away, allowing for more air to rise. We know rising air allows for more convection, more shower and storm development. So basically it does that and allows for a storm to at least maintain strength, and especially if it can get away from land masses, can avoid some dry air. Things like this is what helps aid in steadily intensification. But right now, there's some dry air on the north side of the storm, a little bit of dry air down here to the southeast. So it's just kind of chilling in one spot. Okay, we need this thing to lift north if it's going to gain strength. So right now, it's just in this area. So that's what's going on with TD10, which is an easy way to say it. It stands for Tropical Depression 10. So let's continue to move forward here. The latest update, and let's see if we got a new update here. Nope, we still just got a 4 a.m. update Central Time. This is a 35-mile-per-hour tropical depression, still forecast to become a tropical storm sometime probably over the next 12 to 18 hours, I would say. Maybe sooner, maybe sometime later this afternoon. Tropical storm warnings up for areas of the Yucatan and then areas of western Cuba. So we'll continue to watch this. But as you notice, I mean, by 1 p.m. Monday, it's just getting back to where it was last night. And then it picks up some forward motion. So it's moving actually south right now at 5 miles per hour. Pretty wild, but this isn't unexpected at all, honestly. So if you're wondering, well, Mitch, isn't this good news? Well, we were expecting this to just kind of meander. Last night, it was stationary. We were expecting this to just kind of float around in one area for about 48 hours at minimum. But I mean, by 1 p.m. Tuesday, this is an all-out hurricane. By 1 a.m. Wednesday, this is knocking on the doorstep of Florida as a hurricane. And still, I mean, look at this. They've actually removed the D up here for tropical depression, and it has this as a tropical storm still riding through South Carolina, areas of riding through Georgia into eastern sections of the South Carolina later this work week. So impacts are going to go well inland. Okay, so just a reminder on that. Another way to look at this is Zoom Earth. You guys, this is available to the public. This is an awesome site. It's like combining Google Maps with the tropics. Wonderful, easy to use site. You got Franklin out here, which is a 90-mile-per-hour hurricane. That'll be old news by the time some of you folks watch this. But look, it's forecast to become a Category 4 hurricane now, at 130-mile-per-hour storm. So this is about to turn to a beast of a hurricane. And then we got this. Look, this is another great way to look at this. Peak intensity now at 90 miles per hour, 2 a.m. Okay, and one would argue that it would continue to get stronger as it enters the Panhandle, Big Bend region of Florida. But it's saying this is going to be a 90-mile-per-hour Category 1 hurricane by 2 a.m. Wednesday. If it goes up another 5 miles per hour, it's a Category 2 hurricane. So if you remember, if you tuned in from last night's video, if you are tuning in, you watched last night's video, it was only had a peak intensity of about 75 miles per hour. This has increased. Forecast to remain tropical storm through Georgia and still be a 50-mile-per-hour tropical storm by 2 a.m. Thursday morning. Okay? So wild stuff. There's so many things to talk about. There's also another feature to watch is some nice dry air behind the system, kind of a light at the end of the tunnel that could funnel in for areas of the southeast. But we'll talk about that in due time. We really need to focus on what could be a significant storm system. So what we're going to do here, and if you hear my kids in the background, it's the morning time. Typically, they're kind of loud. So you guys know I got kids. Well, at least most people do. We'll compare all model guides. We'll talk about the global models, GFS and Eero, and then we'll talk about some hurricane models, which I'm not going to lie, look scary. And to be honest, guys, all model guidance has increased. I'm about to show you what I'm talking about here. GFS, latest GFS run, here it comes. If you look at the bottom of your screen, there it is. This is around Tuesday afternoon. You got a 990 millibar low pressure storm. This continues to strengthen. It's a sub 990 storm Tuesday evening. And then we're getting into the middle of the night, Tuesday night, and then we're getting into Wednesday morning GFS now, which has gradually strengthened this storm. Wednesday morning has a 964 millibar low pressure hurricane now, which is stronger than the information I showed you last night, right? This is the latest morning run. Now has a 964 millibar low pressure hurricane. If you're saying, Mitch, I don't know what that means, that likely is at minimum probably I would say probably a Category 2 hurricane, okay? And it's probably continuing to strengthen. So by the time it basically makes that landfall into this region of Florida sometime Wednesday morning, Wednesday early afternoon. Okay, but the timing is going to change a lot. Okay, and then it continues to plow this thing into Georgia. The GFS has consistently been further west, so this will bring more impacts a little bit further north in Georgia. This continues, heads, it brings a lot of hefty impacts into central Georgia, the Augusta region, central South Carolina. This is in the middle of the night, Wednesday night and Thursday morning, and you have a weakening low pressure just charging through. The further west this works, the bigger the tornado threat's going to be on the dirty side of this system, which is the right, basically the east right quadrant of any tropical system. You're going to have a raging low-level jet, and we're going to have issues. So that's going to be something, a topic that emerges over the next couple days. All right, what about the European? European has ticked a little bit further west. Here it comes on your screen. So it's actually moved a little bit towards the GFS model, but the European is even strengthened now. So it makes landfall as a 988 millibar low pressure storm. That's a little bit stronger than what it's been showing sometime Wednesday afternoon. All right, so I would argue that's probably a category 1 hurricane making landfall. All right, and this continues to ride into Florida, brings tropical storm force conditions into southeast Georgia. This heads into South Carolina, the low country of South Carolina, in the middle of the night, Wednesday into Thursday morning, and we're dealing with some nasty conditions probably sometime Thursday into Thursday afternoon for the central and eastern areas of South Carolina and southeast areas of North Carolina as we get into Thursday afternoon. This heads on out to sea. So these are the models I'm worried about. This is the latest and greatest update from the HAF model, which is a hurricane model. Okay, this is what it does with this. We get Monday morning. This is still chilling in between western Cuba and the Yucatan. It finally gets some northern progression with it as we're getting into Monday afternoon. All right, this thing begins to strengthen. At this point, we're getting to Tuesday morning. It has this, and if you look on this part of your screen, that is Florida right here. It has this as a 974 millibar hurricane. It's probably a category 1 low-end, category 2 hurricane. Look as that number continues to drop, guys. The more this number right here drops, the stronger the tropical system is. All right, we continue. We get all the way into the middle of the night, Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. This is like right in the middle of the night, Tuesday night. You got a 951 millibar low pressure hurricane staring down basically where the Panhandle meets the Big Bend area, where it turns and heads south, staring down this area right here, which just the curvature of the Florida coastline right here would cause massive storm surge issues. Okay, and we will know more about storm surge when we know more about how strong this is going to be. But it makes landfall as maybe a sub 950 millibar low pressure hurricane, which I would argue is probably nearing category 3 status, major status, and it continues to plow this through the rest of Florida, Georgia, brings tropical storm force conditions into South Carolina. How quick does this get kicked out? Really will depend on the front that's moving in at the same time. Okay, if we look at the HMON hurricane run here, which it did really well last hurricane season, we get this going here. And has this Tuesday morning as a 986 millibar hurricane at this point, probably a category 1 hurricane. We continue to move this forward here, and it's definitely further west than the HAF model. Okay, this is another hurricane model. This has this thing a pretty big hurricane. All right, so it's got as a 970 millibar hurricane sometime Tuesday night, and then Wednesday morning we have a sub 970 millibar low pressure hurricane staring down the central Panhandle regions of Florida. So what is that town? What is that? St. George Island, that region right here, even Mexico Beach. I mean, Tallahassee, which I know isn't right on the coastline. These are the areas to really watch for in this entire region right here. What is that? Apalachicola, I believe is how you pronounce it. You Floridians definitely correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not going to take any offense to it. This looks like it stares down that region right here Wednesday morning. So the hurricane models are still showing it. This is further west, so this will bring more impacts. I mean, maybe even into southeast Alabama. This would bring impacts to Atlanta. This will bring more hefty impacts further deeper inland into South Carolina, North Carolina. At this point, you need to watch the southern Alps region, higher elevations. Of course, rain getting pushed up against these regions could cause big issues. And this will bring a full-fledged tropical storm force conditions into like Augusta, Columbia, South Carolina sometime late Wednesday night. So that's the latest model information. We'll do this again tonight, but we'll show you what's steering this one more time in this video. And then I say one more time, but we'll do it again this evening too, because I want you guys to understand what's steering this and why it's just chilling in one spot right now. So let's back this up to about right now. So if you notice, there's a flow around this system, just kind of going like this. You see these streamlines, but you notice in and around the immediate location of the low pressure currently, there's no real flow, lack of flow. So this continues to kind of drift around, but you see this little feature right in here digging down? That is like a short wave trough, a little upper trough, if you will, that digs down ahead of this main cold front that's digging down. And this feels this enough to where this begins to get tugged northward. So you see this little dig right here, and you see these streamlines that are pointing to the northeast, these little arrows. It begins to feel that, and that is why eventually this little kind of feature right in here, that is why this begins to surge in that direction. That was a very, very ugly arrow, but that is why it starts to move in this direction. Get my hands from stop shaking so much. So this little feature right here pulls this northward. So that is why it finally gets kind of kicked northward, if you will. So let's get this off your screen. Let's get this flowing again. And then you see the main trough that comes down, digs down, and really gets it to pick up some speed, kind of puts a boot in its rear end, if you will, and it really begins to pick up some speed, plow into the panhandle of Florida. This is a digging trough, and it really, like I said, picks up some forward speed at this point and then wraps around this little bit of a kind of a ridge, if you will, and then actually slings it due east at this point. So this is what's pulling this in. Now I will tell you, with this approaching trough, this is going to bring some shear to the system. So some dry air and some shear. So there'll be a big time moist dry air boundary really close to this system, but doesn't really interfere with it. Okay, we're not sure. That's why, you know, you still need to watch out for these low end scenarios and these high end scenarios. But as of now, it just doesn't look like the dry air is going to be close enough to really interfere with the center of circulation with this trough approaching. So we need to watch out. If we talk about impacts, guys, this is the actual National Hurricane Center latest information as far as rainfall. Let's see if this has changed at all, and it has not. Brings a plume of 6 to 10 inches of rain just south of Tallahassee, right along these areas, right into here. Like I said, that St. James Island area, was that Crawfordville. And once you get, once you get east of St. James Island, you don't have great road networks to really ride against the coastal regions, okay? You kind of have to go from a highway and move inland. I kind of been in this area one time when I chased a tropical system. It gets a little bit more complex if you're a chaser trying to chase this. So, but we'll see what happens here. In the yellows, that is 4 to 6 inches of rain. And yeah, so I expect this to increase. I definitely do, as confidence increases on where the landfall is going to be. Another way to look at this is the national blend of all models. So this basically goes between now and next Sunday morning. So the next 7 days, basically just widespread, anywhere from 3 to 6 inches of rain. But we expect this to increase along the immediate coastline of Florida as confidence increases. The blend of all models is always conservative. But, you know, if you look, it's something like the European model. Okay, and this is picking up on 06Z. The European model shows about the same thing, honestly. And I honestly think that, yeah, there's going to be areas that get several inches of rain, but I think the quick forward progression of this system as it gets kicked out by the trough will prevent any stalling from this system. So I don't think you're going to get like 12 to 18 inches of rain or anything like that. But that could change. That could change. Okay. We continue to move here. We talk about winds. We'll gradually inch ourselves into more about talking about winds. But until we know exactly where this is going to make landfall, at least have a great idea. Winds will be a tough topic. But this is the chance to see tropical force winds. All right, so you got this little area. It's a 50 to 60, 60 to 70% chance to see tropical storm force winds now nudging into the panhandle areas of the northern Big Bend region of Florida. So it's even got this up into South Carolina where you have that 10 to 20% chance to see tropical storm force winds. Okay, you look at the timeline, which is honestly a lot earlier, and I kind of than basically what we're seeing with the model guides. But we're going to roll with this. This is what they're saying. They're the experts, but they're probably picking up on the outer bands things like that. But it's saying around the Tampa Bay area, as early as 8 a.m. Tuesday morning, we could see some tropical storm force winds with some of these outer bands on the east side. We really need to watch the Tampa Bay area, just the immediate west coast of Florida, the peninsula, because if this gets close enough to you guys, you might not get a direct impact, but you'll get these dirty bands. I call them dirty. It's the dirty side of the system. Basically, the east quadrant of these tropical systems have a serious tornado threat with them. So if this gets close, you're going to get lashed by them outer bands, and those can be serious too. Of course, not as serious as persistent, consistent kind of 80 to 100 mile per hour winds, but there can be some intense conditions in these. But it says, 8 by 8 p.m., this is taking over the entire northern section of Florida. And then by 8 a.m., you got tropical storm force winds, if you get them, entering South Carolina and the Carolinas. Okay. I will look at the HAF model, and this is a worst case scenario, guys. I'll be honest with you guys. And you keep this going, and if something like this plays out, okay, it's kind of right where the northern section of the Big Bend region enters the Panhandle region, right into here. I don't know what you Floridians consider the cutoff between the Big Bend and the Panhandle, but regardless, here it is. That core makes landfall on this model run around 5 a.m. Eastern time, and that core right there, guys, that's winds over 100 miles per hour, wind speeds. Okay, which we would expect if this was to verify as a Category 3 hurricane or higher. So this is serious. We need to watch out for this, and this is continuing to move inland with packed tropical storm force winds, potentially all the way into Georgia, into South Carolina. Okay, we need to watch, and then it can get enhanced by a jet streak into here. This happens often sometimes. That didn't make sense. It happens often sometimes. Sometimes, basically, when these tropical systems surge northward, they can get like a jet streak sometimes with them, and they kind of merge with the jet, and then the winds are actually accelerated even though the tropical system is over land. We'll talk about that when it needs to be talked about, if it looks like it's going to happen. Update on Hurricane Franklin. I hope that helped you guys. We'll continue to pump out information for you folks and keep you guys updated. Let's give you the latest information on Franklin. Still technically a Category 1, 90 mile per hour hurricane, but I expect this to maybe even be a Category 3 hurricane. Maybe by the time we get into this evening, it will definitely be a Category 2 hurricane. Bermuda, you're right on the edge of the cone, but as of now, not in it. But this is forecast to become a Category 4 hurricane now by the time we get into tomorrow. So rapid intensification is going to occur. If we look at Zoom Earth, you see that right here, Category 4 major hurricane, and gets very close to Bermuda. But as of right now, looks like it's going to stay. West and northwest and north of you guys. Okay. If you're worried about Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, the good news is it's not expected to impact you guys now. Chances are very low it affects y'all. So if you're wondering, Mitch, what about us? It does not look like it's going to affect y'all. But we need to watch out in Bermuda. All right, just don't want to completely forget about Franklin and Bermuda. Haven't really had anybody tell me they're tuning in from Bermuda, but I don't want to leave you guys hanging. That little dot is Bermuda. It's the latest European model. This model gets it the closest to Bermuda, and it really gets close. It gets some of those outer bands into this area, and we need to watch out for sure. But definitely has a pretty strong hurricane just north of the island. So let's be aware of this. Continue to tune in, get the latest and greatest information. As of now, it still looks like it's going to miss, but it gets awfully close. That's for sure. So, all right, let's give you an update on what's going to happen weather-wise for today. There's not a whole lot going on. In fact, it's hard to really see what's going on. The ridging has been flattened out. You got a kind of a shortwave trough digging down to the southeast. This is sparking some storms along the Mississippi Delta region. And if we look at the radar and what's going on, we had a severe thunderstorm warning in northern Mississippi earlier, but this area of showers and storms are moving through portions of, like I said, the Mississippi Delta, northern Mississippi, areas of Tennessee and western Kentucky, southern Illinois. A little bit of shower and storm activity in the Carolinas and areas of Virginia. A little bit of shower activity up here in the northern portion of the country. If we look at what's going to happen weather-wise as far as severe weather, a huge marginal risk that basically extends from central Texas all the way into North Carolina. Great news today. I think we're going to get some widespread rains in areas of Louisiana and then eastern areas of Texas. Now, you might have to deal with some strong storms, but I honestly think y'all will take those chances any day. I'll speak on behalf of you guys because I know you guys need the rain. I'm going to show you guys how much rain y'all could potentially see in Louisiana today. I really think y'all can get some widespread rains, especially in northern Louisiana. But a rainfall between Basically, it's the excessive rainfall outlook. And I'm surprised they don't have a marginal risk into Louisiana. I'm very, very surprised with how dry it is. And the fact that if you get a lot of rain quickly, the soil just won't have enough time to really take in all this moisture. Very, very surprised there's no marginal risk right in here. But here we are. Slight risk up. Basically, that means there's at least a 15% risk in this yellow area of excessive rainfall being met. There's also a little area right here in Tennessee and areas of Kentucky. I think a lot of rain could fall today in areas of the upstate of South Carolina and North Carolina. We'll talk about that here in a second. Watches and warnings. Flood watches up for eastern North Carolina. As we get into the next couple days, I expect widespread flood watches to be issued from Florida through Georgia to the Carolinas, but we won't talk about that yet until it's actually there. Excessive heat warnings continue for Louisiana, areas of Mississippi to southern counties of Arkansas and areas of southeast Texas. Heat advisories still extend into Atlanta and even into the upstate of South Carolina, Alabama. Still very hot, but at least this isn't all the way up here like it's been over the last several days. So let's talk about rain today. So broad look, here comes this little spin right into here. This will prompt a lot of thunderstorm development throughout Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia today. I think it'll be very widespread in western areas and northwest sections of South Carolina and North Carolina. We could get a lot of storms in the Sandhills regions and eastern sections of North Carolina. But look at this rain showing up over here in eastern Texas, Louisiana. I think we're going to get some storms, most likely along the west coast of Florida. This is not because of what's coming. This is just typical summer kind of stuff. And yeah, these storms could pack a punch today. We had some significant weather here in my neck of the woods, here in Columbia, South Carolina. We had some intense heat to build. I think it hit 102 at my house. Hit 100 in the National Weather Service in Columbia, and then we just had some storms that really blew up, and they really pack a punch. One of the things I notice is if it heats up really fast in the day, storms fire up pretty early on, and they can be very intense. They have a ton of thermodynamics to work with, and sometimes you can get a very severe storm on just a general risk day. But a closer look at Louisiana, areas of the Deep South, and here we come. Widespread shower and storm activity gets going here in areas of Louisiana. Shreveport might get an inch of rain today. Look at these storms in southern and southwest sections of Mississippi. You guys need the rain, and I think a lot of people are going to get it today. Of course, there's still going to be that neighborhood that doesn't get a drop of rain. Happens every single day, but I think there's a solid chance, and I think we could be waking up to even more shower activity in northern Alabama, western Tennessee today. We take our way into the Carolinas, and this is just the HRRR model. Models are kind of struggling with what exactly happens today, but I think pretty early in the afternoon, we're going to get some storms that fires up in the western areas of North Carolina, pop-up activity around Atlanta to Augusta to Columbia, over to eastern North Carolina. This continues to fly through, and I think we're going to have some widespread activity in this region right into here for sure. So we'll watch out for that. This becomes even more widespread as we are getting into the overnight hours, potentially into northern South Carolina, central North Carolina. So rainfall between now and the next 24 hours. I mean, the National Weather Service is pretty aggressive with this. You got a build of an inch to a couple inches of rain stretching from northeast Georgia, South Carolina, all the way into eastern areas of North Carolina. So a lot of rain could fall. Okay. Northeast today, I think we could get some storms that fire up. I'm very surprised there's not a general risk of storms up here in the Northeast, but Vermont, New Hampshire, down to Mass, you could get one or two storms that fly through. Not a big deal, but if you're in this area, some storms are possible. One could pack a punch. Very, very surprised there's no general risk up here. Maybe they just, I don't know. They're the experts. I don't really have anything to say. I don't know, but you guys could definitely get some storm action in New England today, so be aware. And also up in Virginia, too. You guys could see some storms down in Virginia today. South Central U.S., this is the great news right here. It's this rain popping up in central Texas, southeast Texas, Louisiana. Look at all these widespread shower and storm activity through the afternoon and evening hours. This is what you like to see right here. So we're really excited. I hope this verifies for you guys. I'm excited to see if this happens. And if you look at rainfall between now and the next 24 hours, I mean, they're going for over an inch of rain in Shreveport. Mary, you might get some storms today up in northeast Texas. So some appreciable rain could fall in this region of the country today where you really, really need it. There's a lot of people in and around these areas that need rain. Hopefully you guys get this today for sure. The north central U.S., pretty quiet. Not a whole lot going on. Some showers could fly through northern Minnesota. Some showers could fly through western areas of Nebraska. But outside of that, guys, there's not really a lot to speak on at all. The western U.S., you could get some showers, maybe even some storms that fly through Idaho, western areas of Wyoming, especially the western half of Colorado, areas of New Mexico. Much quieter day in Utah and Arizona today, but a shower is definitely cannot be ruled out. You keep this rolling here, and these will drift a little bit further east and maybe deeper into further areas of Colorado, New Mexico. Outside of that, just your typical kind of weather day out here, nothing too crazy. Temperatures very hot in the deep south. Most of the heat's confined to the south. Much more comfortable conditions with a front that's approaching. It's going to be approaching very slowly, but a nice late summer day in the Ohio Valley, Midwest, the Great Lakes region, the Northeast. It's very comfortable for sure. The western U.S., definitely a tick above average temperature-wise, but nobody is overly hot. But definitely stay tuned to your local people with this. That's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all. Stay tuned for tonight. I'll get you guys another update.